Hello again and welcome to ISAC Software Academy Linux course. This lesson is about X, the windowing system for Linux. This windowing system is also named X11 based on its major version number of 11. This version number has been in use since 1987, and the X.org Foundation heads the X project. The X system is free and open source software, however operates under the MIT license and not the GNU GPL. This is because X started in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology back in 1984. Linux implementations of X was separated into X386 and X.org for a period of time. X386 at one stage was the de facto standard of X development until some time later when the two actually joined and it became a singular development. X11's development is now primarily done by X.org, and as such the separation between X11 and X386 has ceased. You would be hard-pressed to find an X386 installation on a Linux machine these days. Obviously, the graphical interface for Linux is X and has been for quite some time. It has the ability to run different desktop environments, which we'll cover in more detail shortly, and able to run different window managers, which I will explain shortly as well. Configuration can be done from within the interface, the graphical interface itself, or via the xorg.conf file, as well as some other minor files. It also has the built-in capability to use multiple virtual desktops, where you could have one application open, change to another virtual desktop, and have a completely different application open, and it would seem to be on the same physical desktop. This has great use in multitasking capabilities, and other operating systems generally require a third-party application to provide this functionality. X can be customized as much or even more so than Microsoft Windows can, allowing a more customized setup to improve a user's productivity and comfort levels using it. Some of the more common desktop environments are KDE, GNOME, and Xforce. I have covered GNOME briefly in an earlier lesson, however it will be covered in more depth here. KDE stands for K Desktop Environment, as the K does not stand for anything. It is one of the first Linux X desktop environments available, made in 1996. It is known for its Plasma desktop and operates using the Qt framework. The Qt framework does open up some licensing issues unless Qt4 is being used, as this has a GPL version available. Qt for Linux, however, had a GPL version to begin with. This issue is only on other platforms. GNOME was released sometime later and in fact was for a time the default standard desktop environment. It was, however, released 3 years later than KDE. It is part of the GNU project and is most commonly used with the GNU/Linux systems. However, has been used in Unix systems such as Solaris as well. GNOME uses the GTK Plus toolkit, and this choice was made because it uses the GNU Lesser Public License, which allows it to be more universally open source and therefore distributed to more platforms. Xforce, or XFCE, is also a common desktop environment. However, its main design goals are quite different to KDE and GNOME in that it aims to be fast and lightweight, however still attempts to be visually appealing and accessible to new users. Xforce is based on the GTK Plus 2 toolkit, and this is the same as the GNOME versions in the 2-point range. Xforce also utilizes XFWM for its window manager, and Xforce is used primarily in systems where a low overhead is required due to poor hardware or perhaps a need for speed and efficiency in the particular application that's being used. As you can see, I have a few dot points related to what has been covered. However, some things have not been mentioned, such as with KDE, it is extremely common amongst home users of Linux. However, the name has actually recently changed to KDE Software Compilation to reflect the fact that KDE is not just the desktop environment, but is also bundled with a great many different softwares designed specifically for KDE. The same happens with GNOME. You can use the applications designed for one with the other, however it will provide some performance degradation as libraries must be loaded in order to do so. As you can see, GNOME is also a very common choice among home users, but KDE is generally considered to be the primary desktop environment among home users. I've already covered these dot points for Xforce in a general sense. However, I did fail to mention that the low overhead is particularly appealing to performance enthusiasts, and as such is generally used there. However, there is some dispute as to whether it is the best one for performance, as there are other options such as LXDE that do in some instances provide lower memory usage. With a desktop environment, you also require a window manager. There are many different types, and the differences between them vary greatly. At this point, it would be wise to mention the purpose of a window manager, which is that it controls the appearance and locations of windows within the X windowing environment. This in effect changes the look and feel of a graphical system, which allows a user to customize it to their preference. FVWM is the first window manager that I am listing here for mention. It is quite often the basis for other window managers such as Afterstep and Enlightenment. It, however, is itself derived from TWM. In this way, FVWM has been a defining influence on a large number of window managers. Sawfish was originally released in 2000. It was first called Sawmill, however had to have the name changed due to a name conflict. It was once the standard window manager of GNOME. Sawfish is still under development and as such can still be used today. Afterstep, as was previously mentioned, is based off of FVWM. It uses the GTK Plus toolkit and is written in C. It was originally designed to resemble NextStep. Afterstep is maintained by a small community of developers. IceWM was originally released in 1997. It is written in C++ and was designed to be relatively lightweight, however is meant to excel in look and feel and comes with themes that permit imitation of other operating systems' graphical interfaces. It can be configured from text files stored in the user directory and has official support for GNOME and KDE menus, which are embedded. The Asus EEE PC uses IceWM as well. Enlightenment was originally released in 1997 and is written in C. It is also known simply as E. It can be used in combination with GNOME or KDE or on its own, and is often used in order to substitute a full desktop environment. Flux Box is written in C++ and is a fork of Blackbox and aims to be lightweight, so much so that it has only basic support for graphical icons. Because of this, it is popular in many live CDs such as Knoppix, and as with some other windowing managers, configuration is done through editing files in the user's home directory. However, in this instance, they are located in a .fluxbox subdirectory. Some universal shortcuts that are not found in all configurations for X are Control plus Alt plus Backspace. This will force X to go down and in some cases to restart. This is used primarily for when X has crashed and there is no other option available. Alt F4 is identical to its use in Microsoft Windows, Whatever application is presently in focus will be terminated. It depends on the application as to whether there will be a prompt or not. Alt-Tab is again identical as Microsoft Windows and will switch between any open windows, giving them the focus. F1, as covered in the help lesson, is for the help system. It does not work on all applications. However, it is known as the key combination for help. An important note is that these shortcuts and all of these shortcuts are not 100% universal. They are considered to be universal in as much as they will work on most systems. However, it is not a guarantee. I will now show you the various desktop environments and window managers that we have mentioned. One that I have failed to mention up until now is the Unity window manager, which is the default for current Ubuntu installations, and you can see it loaded here. I have installed all of the available desktop and window managers, and will now show you what GNOME looks like. Unity, however, is a variation of GNOME, and as such the differences are minimal. You can get to the other managers by simply logging out and going to the icon just here. I'll first show you Enlightenment, which you select and then type in password, at which point it will load up the Enlightenment interface. As you can see, it has a menu down the bottom with everything in it and various other things over here relating to the system performance and the time. You can get out of this by going to System and log out, at which point you can then select the next one, which is Flux Box, and use the same method again, which will load up the bar down the bottom. And to get a menu, you simply right click and you can see all of these available here. Clicking on exit will take you back to here where you can select another option. I will show you FVWM, and it is the basis for some of the ones we've already looked at. As you can see, it utilizes the click. However, the left click gives you the root menu. From here you can actually change the window manager. However, we will continue to do it through logging out and back in again. I will just demonstrate this by showing you after step. This is after step, and as you can see, it looks considerably different and has the desktop menus by clicking on them, the same as the others, which you can leave by going to close this session. The next one I will show you is GNOME. You'll find it looks almost identical to GNOME Unity. It simply lacks the bar down the side here. However, it has a menu at the top that allows you to go into all of the different tools and software that are available here. I have found out the hard way that Sawfish does not work on this particular installation, so I will be showing you IceWM and then Xforce. This has a menu down the bottom, much the same as the other interfaces. However, this one requires you to click in order to select things. It does allow you to go through other window managers. However, we will be using the logout procedure. Next is the Xforce Assertion. As you can see, it has an applications menu at the top, which allows you to change settings and access all of the same applications. One thing to note is that you can actually access the KDE based software as well as the GNOME based software through any of them once they are installed. It does make a more cluttered menu system, however it does give you access to more tools. That's the end of this lesson for today. I hope it was a valuable lesson for you. The next lesson will be in general Linux use, and it will be on cron and AT. Thank you.